President Joe Biden just endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to be the Democratic National Convention nominee for president in 2024. But here's the thing. Kamala Harris cannot beat Donald Trump. But there is one Democrat who can. My name is Andrew Bustamante, and I am a former CIA intelligence officer, and it is my assessment that Kamala Harris cannot beat Donald Trump in 2024, and here's why. Kamala Harris has been a notoriously unpopular vice president. Not only does she come across as weak and disorganized, but she's actually struggled with some pretty significant issues over the course of the last 4 years. All the things that the Biden administration has done wrong, from immigration to national debt to recovering from COVID. But she has also been stymied by this history of people who don't like to work for her. It wasn't that long ago that Kamala Harris was struggling with staff that didn't want to work for her. There was significant turnover, even to the point of her own chief of staff leaving her. So not only is Kamala Harris a weak leader within her own staff, but she also has a reputation of being a weak vice president or a weak support element to a leader like Joe Biden over the last 4 years. So simply put, the Democratic National Convention can't put a weak leader in competition against a personality as strong as Donald Trump with any hopes of actually winning the 2024 election. Second, the most likely person to pair up on the 2024 ticket with Kamala Harris would be California Governor Gavin Newsom. But here's the thing. Kamala Harris also comes from California. So we would have two California career politicians on the presidential ticket in 2024, even though we all know that California is a bankrupt state. In fact, California carries more debt as a state than any other state in the union. So does the Democratic National Convention really think the American people would stand behind two career politicians that come from a state with the worst financial history in a union that is currently struggling from economic recession? I don't think that's likely. Third, Kamala Harris consistently performs behind Donald Trump in the polls. But here's what's interesting about that. She performs worse than other Democratic candidates who could also be on the Democratic National Convention ticket in 2024. For example, Gavin Newsom. So why would the Democratic National Convention be teeing up Kamala Harris, somebody who comes from a bankrupt state, to pair her up with another person who comes from a bankrupt state, knowing that she performs worse in the polls than the person she would potentially pick to be her vice president? The answer is because the DNC already knows that Kamala Harris doesn't stand a chance. What they're doing is saving face for President Joe Biden. President Joe Biden has been facing increasing pressure from his own party to step down and not run for president in 2024. That kind of pressure has mounted to the point where he has to take some kind of action. But to nominate somebody outside of his own administration would essentially be a vote of no confidence in his administration. And that's something that Joe Biden simply couldn't do. He's a career politician. He knows how this works. He knows how it would be interpreted on the Hill. So by following the chain of succession, which naturally dictates that in the event that the president can't perform their duties, the vice president does take up those duties. All Joe Biden is doing is following the proper protocol as defined by the White House for order of succession. So he is passing his endorsement to Kamala Harris. That allows Joe Biden to step away from the administration, out of the White House and out of the 2024 race with grace and demonstrating his commitment to the natural democratic process of the United States. However, that does not mean that the DNC is going to take on the same nomination that Joe Biden has endorsed, which gives space for the DNC to pick somebody completely new. And it preserves the legacy of both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So the question becomes, who could the DNC possibly pick to be the person who runs against Donald Trump in 2024? Now that we know Joe Biden is stepping out, and we know that Kamala Harris does not have the popularity or the social power to mount a meaningful campaign against Donald Trump, we have to ask ourselves, who does have that power? And the answer is Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama is the one Democrat in the United States today that actually stands a chance to beat Donald Trump in 2024. The DNC knows it. The RNC knows it. Donald Trump knows it. Kamala Harris knows it. So the question becomes, why has the Democratic National Convention let President Joe Biden endorse Kamala Harris when everyone knows that only Michelle Obama has the power to actually mount a meaningful campaign against Donald Trump? That is the topic of my next video, where I'll explain to you all the advantages that Michelle Obama has over Donald Trump and what that race could possibly look like. We are living through an incredible time in history and seeing amazing changes here in the United States. It was less than 2 weeks ago that we saw an attempted assassination on a former president. Then we saw one of the worst Republican National Convention acceptance speeches of all time. And now we're watching as the sitting president endorses the vice president so that the sitting president doesn't have to be the incumbent on the next Democratic presidential ticket. This is an unprecedented time in American history, and what happens in the next weeks and months really will dictate what the United States looks like for the next decade and beyond. Click subscribe, leave a comment, share this video with a friend, and I will keep you updated on what I see happening in the world around us. Even better, if you want to start learning how to see the world around you like I do, click on the link below in the description and learn to start seeing the world through the eyes of a spy.